Part 1. Talent is overrated. Talent can open a door. Consistency keeps it open. Because talent impresses people. But consistency changes lives. Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I want you to think about someone you admire. Maybe an athlete. Maybe a business leader. Maybe a musician. Maybe a writer. Now ask yourself a question. What made them successful? Was it talent, or was it something else? Most people immediately answer, talent, natural ability, special gifts, exceptional intelligence. But what if that isn't the full story? What if talent matters far less than people believe? Today, we're going to explore one of the most powerful truths in life. Consistency beats talent. Now let's begin. Imagine two people. The first person is naturally talented. Everything comes easily. Learning is faster. Performance is better. Results arrive quickly. The second person is average. Nothing comes naturally. Progress is slow. Mistakes are frequent. Improvement feels difficult. If you watch them for 1 week, the talented person would probably win. If you watch them for 1 month, the talented person would probably win again. But what if you watch them for 10 years? Now the answer becomes less obvious. Because talent creates advantages, but consistency creates transformation. Now here's something important. Talent is often visible. Consistency is often invisible. Think about that. People see the performance, people see the success, people see the achievement, but they rarely see the years of repetition behind it. The early mornings, the ordinary days, the boring practice sessions, the countless small actions that nobody applauded. This is why talent receives attention, while consistency creates results. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest mistakes people make is comparing their beginning to someone else's middle. Imagine a person learning the piano. They watch a master performer and immediately think, I could never do that. What they don't see are the thousands of hours hidden behind that performance, the mistakes, the frustration, the repetition, the persistence, the years of showing up. This is critical because excellence often looks like talent from a distance, but up close, it usually looks like consistency. Now imagine a person who practices for 30 minutes every day. Nothing dramatic happens. 1 day passes, then a week, then a month. The progress feels small, almost invisible. Many people quit here because they expect immediate results. But consistency works differently. Its power is hidden at first. Now imagine another person. They practice intensely for 3 days, then disappear for 2 weeks, then return, then disappear again. The effort may be greater, but the progress is weaker because growth loves consistency, not intensity. Now here's something deeper. The world often celebrates talent because talent is exciting. Consistency is not. Consistency is repetitive, predictable, ordinary, and that's exactly why it works. Now imagine building a brick wall. 1 brick seems meaningless. 2 bricks seem meaningless. 10 bricks seem meaningless. But eventually, a wall appears. Success often works the same way. Small actions repeated consistently become extraordinary outcomes. Now let's go deeper. Many people quit too early because consistency feels unrewarding in the beginning. Imagine planting a seed. You water it. Nothing happens. You water it again. Still nothing happens. Days pass. Weeks pass. The soil looks unchanged. A talented person might become impatient. A consistent person keeps watering. And eventually, the growth appears. This is one of the most important lessons in life. The greatest rewards often arrive late. Now here's something important. Talent can create a fast start, but consistency wins long races. Think about that. Many talented people rely on ability, and because things come easily, they never develop discipline, never develop patience, never develop persistence. Then life becomes difficult. Challenges appear, competition increases, and suddenly, talent is no longer enough. Now imagine another person, average talent, but exceptional consistency. They continue learning, continue improving, continue showing up, year after year. Eventually, their progress becomes impossible to ignore. This happens in business, sports, relationships, learning, and almost every area of life. Now here's something deeper. Consistency builds something that talent cannot guarantee. Trust. Imagine working with someone. Would you rather have a brilliant person who appears occasionally, or a reliable person who shows up every day? For most people, the answer is obvious because reliability creates confidence. People trust consistency. Employers trust consistency. Customers trust consistency. Teams trust consistency. And life rewards trust. Now imagine two students. One is naturally gifted. The other studies every day. At first, the gifted student appears unstoppable. But years later, the student who kept showing up often surpasses expectations, not because of talent, because of repetition, because repetition compounds. Now let's go deeper. One of the greatest myths in the world is, if I had more talent, I would be successful. But history tells a different story. Many talented people wasted potential. Many ordinary people built extraordinary lives. The difference was rarely ability. It was consistency. Now imagine improving by just 1% every day. The improvement feels tiny, almost ridiculous. But years later, the results become extraordinary. This is the hidden power of consistency. It compounds, and compounding changes everything. Another powerful example is Thomas Edison. People remember his inventions, but they often forget his persistence, his willingness to continue experimenting thousands of times. That persistence mattered just as much as intelligence, maybe even more. Now think about your own life. Where are you relying on talent? And where should you be relying on consistency? What goal have you abandoned because progress felt too slow? What would happen if you simply kept going? These questions matter deeply because most people overestimate talent and underestimate repetition. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about ignoring talent. Talent matters, but talent alone rarely creates greatness. In the next part, we will explore why consistent people become unstoppable, why small actions outperform bursts of motivation, and why ordinary effort repeated for years can create extraordinary results. Because in the end, talent may get attention, but consistency gets results. Part 2. Small actions create extraordinary results. Talent may give you an advantage. Consistency multiplies the advantage because talent works occasionally. Consistency works every day, and every day eventually becomes a life. Take a moment and think about this honestly. Have you ever met someone incredibly talented who never fulfilled their potential? Most people have. Maybe they were naturally gifted, naturally intelligent, naturally athletic, naturally creative. Everyone expected great things from them. But years later, their lives looked surprisingly ordinary. Why? Because talent without consistency is like a powerful car without fuel. The potential exists, but the movement never happens. Now let's begin. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is believing that success comes from dramatic effort. People love dramatic stories. The overnight success, the sudden breakthrough, the incredible transformation. But most success stories look very different. They look repetitive, boring, ordinary. And that's exactly why most people miss them. Now imagine a person reading 10 pages every day. The habit feels insignificant. Nobody celebrates it. Nobody notices it. Nothing dramatic happens. One day passes, then another, then another. But after 5 years, something remarkable appears. Thousands of pages have been read. Knowledge has accumulated. Wisdom has accumulated. Growth has accumulated. Not because of one extraordinary effort, because of consistency. Now here's something important. Consistency often feels ineffective because results are delayed. Think about that. Human beings naturally want immediate rewards, immediate feedback, immediate progress, immediate success. But consistency operates differently. The reward comes later. Now imagine pushing a giant boulder. The first push seems useless. The second push seems useless. The 10th push seems useless. The 100th push finally creates movement. To an observer, it appears that the final push caused the change. But that isn't true. Every push mattered, even the invisible ones. This is exactly how consistency works. Now let's go deeper. Most people quit during the invisible phase, the phase where effort exists, but results do not. Imagine exercising for 2 weeks. The mirror barely changes. The scale barely changes. Nothing exciting happens. Many people stop here. Not because the process failed, because the reward was delayed. Now imagine another person. She continues. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Eventually, the results become undeniable. This is one of the greatest advantages consistent people possess. They are willing to work without immediate evidence. Now here's something deeper. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum changes everything. Imagine trying to push a train. At first, the effort feels enormous. The train barely moves, but once it gains speed, the movement becomes easier. Life often works the same way. Starting is difficult. Continuing becomes easier. The problem is that many people quit before momentum appears. Now imagine a writer. The first page feels difficult. The second page feels difficult. The first month feels difficult. But after years of writing, the process becomes natural. Not easy. Natural. Because repetition has built momentum. This principle applies everywhere. Business, fitness, learning, relationships, personal growth. Momentum rewards consistency. Now let's go deeper. Another reason consistency beats talent is because consistency survives bad days. Talent cannot guarantee action. Consistency can. Now imagine waking up tired. A talented person may decide to skip practice. A consistent person shows up anyway. Imagine feeling discouraged. The talented person may pause. The consistent person continues. Imagine experiencing failure. The talented person may question everything. The consistent person learns and keeps moving. This difference becomes enormous over time because life is not measured on your best day. Life is measured across thousands of ordinary days. Now here's something important. Extraordinary people often appear disciplined, but what they're really doing is protecting consistency. Think about that. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is continuation. Many people believe one mistake ruins progress. One missed workout, one bad day, one setback. And because they feel discouraged, they quit completely. Now imagine another person. She misses one day, then returns immediately. The difference seems tiny, but over years, it becomes massive. Because consistency is not perfection. Consistency is returning, again and again. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest dangers of talent is that it can create complacency. When things come easily, people often stop growing. They rely on strengths, avoid weaknesses, and eventually, they stop improving. Now imagine another person. Nothing comes easily. Every skill requires effort. Every improvement requires repetition. That person develops something powerful: persistence, patience, work ethic. And over time, those qualities become competitive advantages. This is why many highly successful people were not necessarily the most talented. They simply refused to stop. Now here's something deeper. The world often notices outcomes, but outcomes are only the surface. The real story exists underneath. Imagine a massive tree. People admire its size, its strength, its beauty, but everything visible depends on roots that nobody can see. Consistency is the root system of success, invisible for years, powerful for decades. Now imagine two people. One focuses on appearing successful. The other focuses on becoming successful. The first seeks quick results. The second builds strong roots. Years later, the difference becomes obvious because strong roots survive storms. Now let's go deeper. Another reason consistency wins is because consistency creates identity. Every repeated action sends a message about who you are becoming. Now imagine exercising every day. Eventually, you stop saying, "I'm trying to get fit," and start saying, "I am someone who exercises." Imagine writing every day. Eventually, you stop saying, "I want to be a writer," and start saying, "I am a writer." Identity changes through repetition, not intention. This is one of the most powerful truths in life. People become what they repeatedly do. Now here's something even deeper. Many people underestimate what can happen in 10 years because 10 years feels distant. But 10 years of consistency can completely transform a life. The person who reads, learns, exercises, improves, shows up, keeps going. That person eventually becomes unrecognizable, not because of talent, because of consistency. Another powerful example is Jerry Seinfeld. One reason he became so successful was his commitment to showing up consistently, writing, practicing, refining, day after day. The habit mattered as much as the talent, maybe more. Now think about your own life. What small action could you repeat every day? What goal have you been treating like an event instead of a habit? What would happen if you stayed consistent for 5 years? These questions matter deeply because success is rarely built in a day. It is built through days. Now let's step back for a moment. You do not need extraordinary talent to create an extraordinary future. You need something much more reliable: consistency. In the final part, we will explore why consistency becomes a superpower, why ordinary people often outperform gifted people, and why the future belongs to those who keep showing up long after everyone else has stopped. Because in the end, talent may start the race, but consistency finishes it. Part 3. The people who keep showing up win. Talent can make you impressive. Consistency can make you unstoppable. Because talent shines occasionally, consistency shines every day. And every day eventually becomes your future. Take a moment and imagine two people. One is naturally gifted. Everything comes easier. Learning is faster. Progress is quicker. Recognition arrives early. The other person is ordinary. No special advantages, no extraordinary abilities, no natural head start. If you saw them at the beginning, you would probably choose the talented person. Most people would. But life is not a sprint. Life is a very long race, and long races reward different qualities. Now let's begin. One of the greatest truths in life is that consistency compounds. Not once, not twice, every day, every week, every year. Imagine a person improving just a little each day. The improvement feels invisible, almost meaningless. But time magnifies consistency, and what seems insignificant today becomes extraordinary tomorrow. This is why consistency is so powerful. Its greatest strength is not what it accomplishes immediately. Its greatest strength is what it accomplishes eventually. Now here's something important. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of staying in the game. Think about that. Many people quit, not because they are incapable, because they become impatient. They expect immediate rewards, immediate recognition, immediate success. When those rewards fail to appear, they leave. Now imagine another person. She stays. She keeps learning, keeps practicing, keeps improving. While others quit, she continues. And over time, the competition becomes smaller. Not because she became more talented, because fewer people remain. This is one of the hidden advantages of consistency. It survives long enough to benefit from time. Now let's go deeper. Imagine two investors. One searches constantly for the perfect opportunity. The other invests consistently, month after month, year after year. The first person depends on brilliance. The second person depends on repetition. History repeatedly shows which strategy wins more often. The same principle applies to life. Consistency often defeats brilliance because consistency compounds. Now here's something deeper. Many people admire successful individuals without understanding what they are actually seeing. They see the achievement, but they don't see the repetitions, the thousands of ordinary moments that created the achievement. Now imagine watching an Olympic athlete. The performance looks extraordinary, but the performance itself is only the visible result. The real story happened years earlier, during ordinary mornings, ordinary workouts, ordinary repetitions, when nobody was watching, when nobody cared, when nobody applauded. This is where greatness is built, not on stage, in private. Now let's go deeper. Consistency also creates resilience. Think about that. The person who repeatedly faces challenges develops strength, not because challenges disappear, Because experience grows. Now imagine a person who exercises consistently. The body becomes stronger. Imagine a person who learns consistently. The mind becomes stronger. Imagine a person who faces discomfort consistently. Character becomes stronger. This is critical because resilience is not something people are born with. It is something they build, and consistency is the builder. Now here's something important. Many people rely too heavily on potential. Potential is exciting. Potential feels valuable. But potential alone changes nothing. Imagine a seed. The seed contains potential, but potential without action remains a seed forever. Now imagine another seed that is planted, watered, protected, given time. Its potential becomes reality. This is the difference. Talent is potential. Consistency converts potential into results. Now let's go deeper. One reason consistency becomes a superpower is because it removes emotional dependence. Most people act when they feel good. Consistent people act regardless. This distinction changes everything. Imagine depending on weather to decide whether you move forward. Some days are sunny, some days are stormy. Progress becomes unpredictable. Now imagine moving forward. Regardless of the weather, the destination arrives much sooner. Life works the same way. People who depend on emotion often drift. People who depend on consistency often arrive. Now here's something deeper. Consistency creates trust, and trust opens doors. Employers trust consistency. Teams trust consistency. Friends trust consistency. Families trust consistency. Customers trust consistency. The person who repeatedly follows through becomes valuable, not because of talent, because reliability is rare, and rare qualities are rewarded. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest misconceptions about extraordinary people is that they possess extraordinary discipline. Sometimes they do, but often they simply developed ordinary habits and maintained them for a very long time. Think about that. The habit itself may be simple: reading daily, practicing daily, learning daily, improving daily. Nothing dramatic, nothing glamorous. Yet over decades, those simple habits create remarkable outcomes. This is why consistency appears almost magical. Not because it is magic, because it works quietly. Now here's something even deeper. Eventually, consistency changes identity. The person who keeps showing up becomes someone who shows up. The person who keeps learning becomes a learner. The person who keeps building becomes a builder. Identity follows repetition. This is one of the most important lessons in life. You do not become what you intend. You become what you repeatedly do. Now imagine yourself 10 years from now. What identity are your current habits creating? What future are your daily actions building? What would happen if you remained consistent? For the next decade, those questions matter deeply because your future self is being created right now, not by one decision, not by one breakthrough, by repetition. Now let's look at another powerful example. Michael Jordan is often remembered for talent. But talent alone never explained his success. His relentless practice, his competitive standards, his willingness to repeat fundamentals again and again played an enormous role in his greatness. That lesson applies far beyond sports, because excellence is rarely an event. It is a habit. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about becoming perfect. You will make mistakes. You will miss days. You will experience setbacks. Everyone does. The goal is not perfection. The goal is continuation. The goal is returning again and again and again. Now here's the final truth. Talent is valuable, but it is unreliable. Consistency is ordinary, but powerful. Talent can create opportunities. Consistency creates results. Talent may impress people. Consistency changes lives. Before we finish, ask yourself honestly, what small action could you repeat every day? What future could you build if you simply refuse to quit? Because the people who win in the end are rarely the people who started with the most talent. They are often the people who kept showing up long after everyone else stopped. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep showing up, keep improving, keep building, and see you in the next story.